Peoples,
of the worldwide federated internet.
what's good? Okay, as you guys can see, I have myself a guest with me today. This is my youngest joining me on this podcast. Today, I'm going to start out with a verse, and what made me think about this is the things going on for Thanksgiving or the things that have been said surrounding Thanksgiving. So, let's get into this. All right, so in the book of Second Timothy, chapter 1, I'm going to read verse, let's see, verse 7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Now, in its context, this is not just a random phrase. So if you read the next verse, it says, Be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of his nor of me his prisoner, but be thou partaker of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of God. So in the context, it's talking about the gospel, sharing the gospel, and not being afraid and or ashamed to share the gospel. But within that, there is some truth about something God has bestowed upon us. And the Bible says he hasn't given us the spirit of fear. Now, I heard many things going into this Thanksgiving. I don't know if you've heard any of the news surrounding Thanksgiving and what some government officials said you should or shouldn't do. Have you heard any of it?
No.
All right, so there's many governors, like the governor in California, where your aunt lives, Gavin Newsom, wanted people to limit gatherings. They didn't want, too many people in a house. I can't remember the exact number. And many things surrounding COVID is based around like a terrifying, debilitating fear. And the Bible says in another place, I'll see if I can find it while I'm looking. The Bible says that fear hath torment. I don't think that's something that we're really meant for. Okay, I'm not going to go to it, but it's in the book of 1 John chapter 4 verse 18. The Bible says, therefore, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. Now, again, that's a specific context, but we find a truth in the Bible about fear. Now, let's talk about COVID. Now, this is my daughter. For those of you who don't know, my youngest. I have 4. Their mom has an autoimmune disease. She has lupus. So we have always been well aware of different sickness seasons, flu seasons, cold seasons, and we've taken, some precautions, but never living in debilitating fear over viruses. I think coronavirus is real. You think it's real?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the coronavirus is serious. Do you think it's serious?
Mm-hmm.
Are you afraid?
No.
Now, why can't those two thoughts be held within the same brain in society? We can acknowledge the virus is real. We can acknowledge the virus is dangerous, but we don't have to end our lives and walk around in fear because of a virus. And I don't think that's healthy. And in those Bible verses, in their context, again, I don't want to just lift verses out of their context to try to prove a point, but there is something in those verses that is a universal truth. God hasn't given us the spirit of fear. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't take precautions? What do you think?
No. I mean, we should take precautions, but I think it's going a little overboard with what's been going on.
Okay, I agree. I think people have taken precautions and they've pushed those precautions into fear. Fear makes you irrational. Would you agree? Now, these I didn't force her to agree with me or say any of whatever she's going to say, just so you guys know. My children have their own mind. We talk about many things, complicated, complex issues, but when it comes to the coronavirus, it seems like there can't be a good conversation based on actual facts and actual data. Now, there's been more coronavirus cases, a lot more cases. The thing that nobody's talking about is, okay, how many hospitalizations now do we have with those cases and how many deaths? And even with that being said, the deaths when you take the deaths worldwide versus the cases and the recoveries, you come away, in my opinion, with the conclusion that this virus is serious, this virus is dangerous, but we don't have to lose our minds and close down countries, destroy businesses and economies for this virus. That doesn't make sense. And to me, now I know some of you believers out there might disagree with me on this, and I understand, but I think if we keep relinquishing freedoms for this idea of safety, at some point, what happens when your ideas are labeled as unsafe? I don't think that's something many people have thought about. You've heard about the whole hate speech arguments, right?
Hmm.
What do you think about them? What's your thoughts on hate speech?
Um, I don't really have that many thoughts on it. Like, I don't know.
Do you
What do you,
do you think that do you think if I say something that's hateful, I should be put in jail?
no. I think we have the freedom of speech. We can say what we want, unless it's like endangering another person. You should be able to say what you want, or unless it's like a threat or something.
Okay, I'm with that, right? You don't want just license to just go around threatening people, but even that, I mean, technically you could argue that that is covered under free speech as well. I mean, I didn't touch you. If I threaten you, if I say I'm gonna punch you in your face, okay, well
Mhm.
maybe we can
Mhm.
report that and say, hey, this guy said he's gonna punch me in the face. But
I do think though, like with threats, schools should take it
I
seriously
agree.
and like the precautions they take and stuff. Like if they get a threat, obviously shut down school because it's not safe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if well, yeah, I guess depending on the threat, I can see that.
Yeah.
Depending on the threat, if you get a bomb threat, you want to take that serious. You don't want to leave a school open knowing that there might be a bomb or may not be a bomb. You got to take precautions. I definitely understand. The point that I was getting to with the coronavirus, and that's why I brought it up, is what happens, and we are fast approaching that point when people argue that your ideas make them unsafe. I give you an example, and I think me and you talked about this. I had another Instagram page a couple months ago. I didn't. I don't know if this was the video that got my Instagram page deleted, but I'm pretty sure it is. I did a video and I went over what is a biblical stance on the transgender argument. It wasn't a message of hate. I wasn't it wasn't a call for violence. It was just a biblical perspective on the transgender argument. And the Bible, I believe, does have something to say about that. Now, it's not explicit, like it's not explicitly talking about transgender people, but there's an argument within the Bible that you could literally make against that position. And I in the video is on my YouTube channel. You can go
Mm-hmm.
check it out. I argued that if God, which he does, forms us in the womb, which he does, for me to say that I'm supposed to be a woman would be me saying that God made a mistake. I'm pretty sure anybody who believes in God would say, yeah, that's an impossibility. God knows what he's doing. He didn't make a mistake. If I'm a man, I was supposed to be a man. And that, again, that wasn't. Now, does that sound like hate speech to you?
No.
Does that sound harmful?
No. You're not like threatening anybody. You're just trying to explain your point of view and what you think about it.
Okay. And so this is the danger with paying, in my opinion, paying no attention to freedoms as they're infringed upon in the name of quote unquote safety.
I feel like people nowadays are too soft. Like, I don't know what it is, but like you say one thing and then they just get hurt. And then it's just like, oh, well, maybe that was a threat on my life. And then it just explodes into this big thing because they didn't like getting their feelings hurt.
So she will probably tell you the way I grew up, and they know my mom. I'm from Brooklyn. We talked about everything. Um, I'm not gonna say exactly how my mom said it, but my mom pretty much let us know that she wasn't raising those soft boys. At least none of us. I kind of brought my kids up the same way. We had hard conversations. We talked about a lot of things. If my kids were able to survive my chastisement, I think they'll be good out in the world. What you think?
Yeah.
I didn't want to raise my kids in a bubble where they couldn't be criticized or hear some harsh speech.
I feel like nowadays some parents are like trying to baby their kids so much, and it's just like once they get out into the world, it's hard for them to like see how life really is.
What did I always tell you and your brothers and your sister about the world once you leave the house?
The world is a hard place, and it will not go easy on you once you get there. So you need to like grow up.
Yeah, there's some things that you just have to understand. I always told my kids that I love you and I'm doing my best to train you in such a way that you will be a productive citizen, a good citizen, and a benefit to the country. But I always told them, understand, when you leave these doors, there's no guarantee that anybody outside of these doors is going to love you, nor are they really going to care about your best interests. And I think that's something that a lot of kids, I believe, struggle with. I don't think they really understand that when you get out into the world, not everybody's going to care or have your best interests in mind.
Yeah. You also try to like question things. Like, don't go along with people just because you want to go along with them. That's not how it rolls.
No, you got to ask questions. Okay, here's my oldest daughter walking in, but of course she's not going to get on the screen. Oh my goodness, we got another visitor. Hey there, how you doing? So anyway, so now we got a Vogue session going on. So what I think if we keep allowing these infringements without at least questioning, okay, hey, we understand this is dangerous, it's serious, but there has to be another way versus trying to mandate where we can go, how long we can stay there, who we can meet with. I think that's a slippery slope, and I know many people don't like hearing. They don't like hearing that, and they think that that's a. I'm trying to find the words. They think that that's a cop out argument, and I don't think it is. I think that when whatever freedom you give up, it's seldom that you get that back. And for example, I point you to none other than the Patriot Act. 9/11 happened. People were just willing to give up any bit of freedom they could just to have a I wouldn't even call it safety. Even I'm not going to say nothing good came out of the Patriot Act, but for the sake of safety, people gave up freedoms. And now some of the same people complain about things that came as a result of the Patriot Act. But nobody paid attention when that was going on. They was all for it because of safety. I think that's a bad way to govern, and I think that's a bad way to go about moving a country forward. We all want to be safe, But do you give up freedom in the name of safety?
I thought it was crazy personally when they were just like, "Oh, you have to wear masks, you can't go out anywhere, you have to stay inside." Like, who are they to tell us where we can and can't go?
Yeah, I agree. And so this is where I'm at with it. You tell me what you think. I was talking to a coworker and I said I would have no problem putting on a mask. I would have no problem doing certain things if it was presented this way. If an official came out and said, "Look, we got a lot going on. We don't really understand this virus. We don't have enough data. And if you would wear mask and if you would social distance, it's up to you and it's on you, but it would really help out. And then when we get more data, we can make another assessment."
Yeah.
I personally think more people would have said, "You know what? Okay, I
Yeah.
think I can entertain that."
I think if they put it better, instead of like forcing everybody to do something, it would work out and benefit them more. And also like forcing people to close their stores down and stuff. Like, people lost a lot of money. Are they gonna pay that money back?
There's a lot of businesses that have been shut down. I've been reading stories about businesses that have been in families for generations
Mm-hmm.
that will never open their doors again. That's crazy. And here's another thing. Many of the businesses that made the most money during the lockdowns were big giant corporations, Target, Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. And the funny thing is these are the same corporations that many people have such issues with. I don't know, I just thought that was odd. The corporations made, and I'm not against corporations making money. I just thought it was odd that people who quote unquote hate big companies were in support of something that would hand over more power to big companies, strip power, and destroy small companies and businesses. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
strange. That
Yeah.
was just my thoughts. And again, another thing that I thought is to tell people now, with everything that has gone on this year, we have coronavirus, lockdowns, political feuding, this disputed election that's just the craziest election ever, all of that. And then you're going to top it off by telling people don't meet with your family for Thanksgiving. What'd you think about
Yeah.
that?
I think that's personally crazy because if anything, like during the lockdown, you would be with your family the most. Like, so why couldn't you meet up with them if you're already exposed to each other?
Well, I think I think in okay, so let me play devil's advocate. I think in the defense of some of these government officials, they were saying or requesting you not meet with family members that you don't live with, right?
Mm.
Like like me going to visit my mom or me coming here to visit you guys, which in my personal opinion, and this is where I think people need to make their own decisions and take their own personal risk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should be, nor do I think it is the government's right to tell you what risk to take. Now, I understand the other side of that argument is people argue that, well, if you play fast and loose with this, you put other people at risk because if you get coronavirus, what happens if you pass it on to someone else? I understand that argument. I get that argument. I just don't know if that argument stands against your own personal freedom.
Yeah.
And that's one of the issues that I have. But the like I
I
said, the bigger issue is just the fear.
I feel like if all these officials saw it from our perspective, like somebody telling them like you can't go see your family or you have to wear a mask 24/7. Stuff like that, if they saw it from our point of view, they would understand more. But like they're at the top, so nobody can, I mean, people can tell them what to do, but still.
Do you think that some of these politicians, do you think they really care about the people below them?
No.
So do you think some of them don't care? Do you think all of them don't care?
There's people who care about their community and try to make it better, and then there's like people who don't care. They just want to get a name out for themselves so they can move higher up.
So it's just for power.
Yeah.
I think that's probably accurate. I think there's some people who do want to help, and I think there's some people, some governors, some congressmen, some senators,
But
presidents that
some of those people who want to help never like get to move up. I don't know. That I thought that was kind of suspicious. Like some of the good people never get to move up. It's always the people who want power and don't stand for the right things.
well, there's two sayings. One of the sayings is absolute power corrupts absolutely. And another saying, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, and forgive me to the worldwide federated internet. I'm sure I'm going to mess this up. But I believe the quote is all that is required for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And I think to some degree, I think a little bit of that is going on now, worldwide. And again, so I know many people are going to hear this and they're going to have some really harsh and hard opinions about my stance on this. And again, let me make my stance on the coronavirus perfectly clear. The virus is real. People have died, but the hysteria around the coronavirus is not
You know
warranted.
what? I feel like where was this hysteria when the flu was going around?
Um, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, so initially when this all started, I had the same opinion. Like, why are people not this afraid of the flu?
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I understand why the COVID-19 is slightly different because this is something that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
So something we've never seen, we don't know, we don't understand. So looking back, I can understand why people would be more apprehensive.
Well, when the flu like first came around, were people acting like this?
I don't know. I've never done any research about the first strains of the flu. Now there have been flus and histories of different flu viruses throughout history that have really caused some damage and really caused some I don't know. So there was the Spanish flu, and I believe that was during. I know I'm gonna screw this up. Forgive me, you history buffs. I can't remember. I think it was World War One. The Spanish flu was going around during that time. Could have that mistaken. I don't know if the hysteria was at the level that it is now, but the difference is information didn't travel as far and as fast as it does now.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are growing up in the age of social media. I didn't have social media growing up. Look, so get this. This is something me and my coworkers were talking about the other day as well. When we were in high school, there was no internet. The internet, as you know it now, didn't come around until I want to say around my ninth or 10th grade years when commercial internet in people's homes started becoming more and more of a thing. But that version of the internet is not what you have now. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to go online and look that up. It wasn't like that. You were still going to the library. You probably don't even know what the Dewey Decimal System is, do you?
No.
Yeah, see? That's what you had to use before if you wanted to go to the library and look up a book.
I feel like we'd be better without the internet, in my opinion.
Uh,
It's a blessing and a curse.
that I will agree with. I can't say that we'd be better without it per se because this is why I say I don't know if we would be better without it. There's many people who watch my videos and listen to my podcasts and enjoy my thoughts as I go through my Bible daily. Now, some of these people maybe never would have been exposed to my line of thinking. Not saying that I'm always right, but when you hear other thoughts, it allows you to think more fully through an issue and maybe consider something you didn't consider before. So in that
Mm-hmm.
regard, the internet has
Let me
been great.
Word that. I think we'd be better without social media. Like Instagram and Snapchat and stuff. Like, but before you say anything, hear me out.
Okay, I'm gonna hear you out.
It gives you a bunch of false news.
Talking to the mic.
It gives you a bunch of false news, first of all. And then like it programs into your brain to think certain things. Like things will pop up and you'll see it, and then like most kids my age won't look it up, so they'll just believe it, and then they go telling other people, and then more people find out, and then a bunch of these people just think the same thing, like the world is ending or something, and that's why I think it's bad.
Okay, so is it the social media itself that's bad, or maybe how people are using it? And hear me out. This is why I say that. Okay, so just like you made your initial argument about the internet, there's people who use the internet for things that are not good. Does that make the internet itself bad?
No.
There's people that use books to sell bad ideas. Many dictators and tyrants across history have written many things, and they use literature to proliferate their ideas. Does that make literature bad? You're a book reader, right? Would you ever argue that books are bad?
No.
People use books for some bad stuff. There's some terrible ideas in books. So I think, though I agree with you, I think social media has allowed and given voices to people, for people to sell and celebrate really terrible ideas. I don't think the problem is social media in and of itself, because remove social media and you still have the problem. You still have bad ideas.
True.
Now, you're not going to, bad ideas, it's not like cutting off social media is going to stop the spread of bad ideas. I'd say if there was no social media websites, then you just have people with their own personal websites. As easy as it is to build a website now, I just build a website and sell my ideas. Social media wouldn't stop that.
True.
So I think to some degree, social media has exaggerated the issue. I'll put it that way. It has definitely exaggerated the issue. But I think the bigger problem is, so, okay, let's get into this. I think the bigger problem with social media is what we allow to spread. Here's my example. Cardi B could put out a video right now. You laughing, but you know I'm telling the truth. Cardi B could put out a video right now, butt naked on Instagram, shaking and twerking and doing whatever, and it would get millions of views. It'll get shared all over the place. I can do a video right now talking about the Bible and do a video right behind that talking about the US Constitution, things that are helpful, and I might get few hundred views, maybe a few shares, maybe. Now, I'm not saying that just for me. I'm saying I watch people's videos. There's people that I follow that I think have very good information, very good videos, very good ideas, and I share some of their stuff. But these people don't get nowhere near the views, clicks, likes, and shares of somebody like a Cardi B. Is that social media's fault?
No, I think it's the people's fault. Kind of. I don't really know.
So who do you think bears the biggest brunt of that responsibility? Is it social media?
I think there's like like the top people who control everything on social media, and like the things that come up on your page.
I call them the technocrat overlords. Anyway, continue.
I think it's like part of their doing.
Okay. Okay, I can partly
Like
go with that.
the stuff that comes up on your search page,
Right.
or whatever. It could have nothing to do with what you actually are interested in, and then it just like pops up. And sometimes it's weird stuff too.
So so do you think that the technocrat overlords want people paying attention to things that are going to dumb them down so they don't think?
Yes. Because I feel like if you dumb things down all the time and then something big comes up, they're obviously not going to do any research, so they'll just go along with it.
Okay, you know what? That plays into okay, so that plays into this election, right? I don't know what you think about the election. I haven't asked you. So again,
Mm.
this is an open and candid conversation. So there's many people, there's some people who voted for Trump, there's some people who voted for Biden. Now, I'm just going this might be purely anecdotal. So people of the worldwide federated internet, don't take this as law, anecdotal. What I have seen and the people that I have talked to, you have ignorant voters on both sides. But what I have found more often than not, and this is not a slight to Joe Biden, and this is not a slight to Joe Biden voters. Please don't take this way. And this might be purely anecdotal. Maybe it's just the people I've interacted with. But I have found more often than not that people who supported and or voted for Biden were ignorant on several issues. Case in point, there's a guy I listen to. I follow him. His name is Tim Pool, and he was reading something, and I didn't fact check this, so I'm purely going off what he was reading. So I'm not saying this is 100% true, but he said there were several people who voted for Joe Biden, and they were asked about the Hunter Biden laptop and some other things surrounding Joe Biden. And they asked him, well, if you knew about this, would you have voted for Joe Biden? And all of them said, no, I wouldn't have voted for him if I knew about all of this. And then they went over some of Trump's accomplishments, whether you like the man or not, that's irrelevant. And all of the people said, I didn't know about any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, do you think that the technocrat overlords did that on purpose and forced certain ideas in front of people's face and kept certain ideas from people to get them to think a certain way?
Yes, I do. I think Trump does good things. He might have his like flaws as everybody does. And the technocrats, whatever you call
Technocrat
them,
overlords.
the technocrat overlords try to hide that from people so they can make this image of him that's like bad.
A caricature is what it's called. They have a caricature of Trump that is exaggerated from who he really is. Just like
Mm-hmm.
now, to be fully honest, there's people who have a caricature of Joe Biden that's exaggerated from who he really is. So it's done on both sides. The unfortunate thing is there's more people within the tech and media fields that hate Trump, so it's exaggerated and you see it more.
You know what? I think um a lot of it, like all this stuff, the new voters or whatever, they're more like teenagers that didn't do any research and they just voted for Biden because everybody was just like, "Oh, we don't go for Trump cuz Trump is bad" and all this other stuff. So they didn't know. You half of these new voters didn't even know there was a backside.
So do you all right, so do you think that this brings up a good argument? Do you think that people who are 16 should be able to vote?
No.
Why not?
Because they're not fully like their brain. They're just so I don't know, but some parents don't talk to their kids enough. And then at the age of 16, I just feel like you're so young and like adolescent.
Becca, you voted this time, right? So come tell the people if you think 16-year-olds should be able to vote. Talking to the mic. What do you think?
I feel like using
Talking to this mic right here.
I feel like what Brooklyn said, that they're not fully developed, is true, but also 18-year-olds aren't fully developed yet. So I feel like having a 16-year-old vote, the only difference between having a 16-year-old vote and having an 18-year-old vote is that most 18-year-olds have graduated high school.
Yeah.
But also, some 16-year-olds graduate high school, so.
All right, so do you think 18-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to vote? Is that what you're saying?
No comment. No, but seriously. Um, I don't think they shouldn't be allowed to vote because if you're legally, that's like the legal age that you're an adult. So it just makes sense that way.
Okay,
But
so you
also, it's really no different than a 16-year-old voting, other than the fact that they finished school.
so you're saying voting at 18 pretty much is a technicality. You're 18, you're an adult now, so you can vote.
Yes.
All right, there you go.
I think, wait, if you were to wait until like somebody's brain is like fully developed, you'd have to make the voting age 25, but that also like lower the amount of people who are allowed to vote.
True.
And
So,
now
and also 18-year-olds can advocate for kids. So, I think that's also a good reason why they should be allowed to vote.
okay, all compelling arguments. And I agree with what she said about 16-year-olds and the development of the brain. Me and her actually did some reading into this. What was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Who you and Becca?
Yeah, about the frontal lobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing some reading. She had a question. I can't even remember what it was, and she read about it, and we actually got into a whole bunch of research about when the frontal lobe is fully developed. I think it was 25. Yeah, it was pretty it was pretty good research, pretty good reading. But so there were or there is a movement now for people who are 16 to be able to vote. What do you think the motivation for that is?
More minds to control.
Ooh, more minds to control.
The younger you are, honestly, the younger you are, the easier it is to connect to control what you think.
This is true. This is true. So you think that maybe there's a group of people that want younger voters because they want easier minds to persuade to vote a certain way?
Yes, honestly, if I was 16 and I could vote, I wouldn't vote because I know that like could not form a thought
Well, I
on
don't know.
stuff.
I think you would be a unique teenager. I think you'd be a unique teenage voter because we have so many conversations
Conversations,
about
yeah.
so many issues.
But I still wouldn't vote. Even like how I am now, I wouldn't vote because that's a lot to put on somebody's shoulders, and that's a lot of responsibility. You know, you
Wait a
get
minute,
to.
let me stop you. Do y'all hear that? My youngest daughter understands that voting is a huge responsibility. Let that sink in. Finish your thought.
That's a lot of responsibility to put on a kid. You know, you have to decide who your president is gonna be, who's gonna like make rules for you, who's gonna control what goes on. You know.
Yeah, that's a. These are all very important things that I think needs to be discussed, especially moving forward. Because
Honestly, I wouldn't vote until I was 25. To be completely honest with you, because like I think that's the smartest decision. Like even if there was an election and I was 18 and I could, but I wouldn't vote.
even if you were informed, I think so. Here's what I think. I think so. I agree with what Becca said. There's really not much difference between a 18-year-old and a 16-year-old besides legal technicalities. But if you're 18, you can join the military. You can fight for your country. Another reason why a lot of people disagree with this, the drinking age should be lowered to at least 18. If you can go die and kill for your country, but you can't drink,
Yeah,
that's kind of retarded, in my opinion. And I'm not a drinker. Personally,
feel like
I'm not a drinker, but yeah.
I feel like personally, if we took alcohol like as seriously as other countries do, like for the taste, not just to have fun or whatever,
Okay, I see what you
the
mean.
the age would be younger.
Yeah, if it was more, if it was not so socially reckless, if it was more socially artistic, I guess, so to speak. I know. So funny story. I work with a guy, my boy Tony. If you listening, what up? He's from Italy. Came over to the States. I want to say, Tony, if you're listening and I'm messing this up, forgive me. I think he came over when he was, I want to say like 11 or something like that. And I remember him telling me stories about
I
him
think it was 9 or 10.
and his sister drinking wine, I want to say. Eating bread, cheese, and drinking wine when they were younger, drinking a bottle of wine. But again, kind of like you said, it's more socially artistic than it is socially reckless So some countries don't have the problems that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, interesting thought. But
With back to voting or whatever.
okay,
I always say I wouldn't vote until 25 because I would first of all want my brain to be fully developed so I can make that big of a decision. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I feel cuz that's just a lot. That's a lot to put on somebody.
it is a lot, but I think so. I think at 18, is it the right age? Is it the proper age? I mean, we can have that discussion, but I think at 18, you are at least old enough that you should be able to, at a bare minimum, do enough research and enough reading to formulate at that point at least a decent opinion, right? You read a lot, so I think you read enough to formulate decent opinions. So I don't think that 18 is a bad age. Like Becca said, we could question the validity of, really what's the difference between 18 and 16? It's 2 years. That's what the difference is. Not really
Yeah.
much outside of that. It's a technicality. You're a legal adult at 18, so you're able to vote. But then the argument can be made, well, then why can't you drink?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense if you can vote, go to war, but you can't drink or smoke, or it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. A lot of that is ridiculous. I don't know what the smoking age is. I think what's the smoking age, Becca?
I think it's 21.
Is it 21? To buy cigarettes? I thought it was younger. Shows how
It used to be younger,
shows
but they
how
changed it.
shows how out of touch I am. I
It
don't know
used to
anything about
be.
that.
It used to be.
With all that being said, with everything that you've heard, y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.